Hello and welcome to another ride with LanesExplorer on the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. A familiar ride. However, last time we did this, we did have a bit of sunshine. We haven't got any sunshine now. And we also didn't have a chest mounted camera. So now we get the full works. We don't get the sun in our eyes. Perhaps not so interesting, being rather dull, but nevertheless that gives me the opportunity for a little story. Oh no! Yes, a little story. And this came to me because of Bleary View, who has a little vlog with 100 subscribers now. Well done, Bleary. And he mentioned that he had a moped. And that moped was very similar to the Push Maxi, which I'm familiar with, but I wasn't familiar with the fact that his was a CZ and very similar. So perhaps the Push Maxi was rebadged, or perhaps the CZ was rebadged. Be that as it may, I think in a further video he's going to go to a motorcycle museum, well, where he lives in Perthshire, near Dundee I think he lives, and he's going to show us this motorcycle museum. So subscribe to him if you want to see the motorcycle museum that he's going to ride to. Now we've got a bit of a lorry in front of us, and he's probably going to be going my way, isn't he? So hang back a bit. I don't really want to be breathing his diesel fumes, filthy dirty things. Now the story, oh yes, back to the story. Mopeds. Now I started my motorcycling career, if you can call it that, on a moped. And I had a bicycle when I was 15, and a friend of mine had a Raleigh moped. He was a few months older than I was, so he was already riding, lucky lad. And he let me have a go on it a few times up and down the road, quite illegally of course, and oh, I just loved it. Yeah, I love that power after pedalling away. Now he said, well, if you really want one, I'll keep an eye out, see what's going on in the area that I live in. And he came one Saturday morning and said, oh, he said, I've located a Mobylette moped, 1957 Mobylette moped, automatic clutch. And he said, very French. I don't quite know what he meant by that, but I do now. And he said, we're going to go and have a look at it. It was very forceful with Andy Gray. Yes, he lived in Portsmouth, that's where I lived too. And so I thought, ooh, right, well I had £7.50. I'd sold the bicycle, I'd had £7.50 in my pocket, burning a hole. And I thought, right, let's get down there. So we didn't make an appointment, we didn't have no phone calls or things like that. I didn't know how to use a phone. So yes, we headed on down there, and it was in Portsmouth, Montfire. It's an easy walk. And the lady there said, oh, who is it for then? I said, well, it's going to be for me. Oh, I don't know about that. No, that my husband, I don't think my husband would like that, because it's not running properly. I said, no. I said, don't worry about that, I'll soon sort that out. So she said, well, alright then, it's £10. I said, oh, I've only got £7.50. Oh, that'll do. So first experience of haggling, and last, I'm not very good haggling. I just pay the price and that's it. So yes, so did I wheel it home? Well, I'd like to say that I wheeled it home, but I didn't. Look at the flooding over on the right hand side there. Mind you, it always lays very low here. This is the RSPB reserve at Minsmere. Minsmere? No, it's Leighton Moss. And you know it well. So yes, I rode it home. It had a bit of petrol in it. I rode it home. Oh wow, it was amazing. And the acceleration, bearing in mind I was used to a pedal bicycle, it just seemed utterly amazing. It had inverted levers on the handlebars. I'll stick a photograph that I found on the internet of this Mobylette on the at the back end of this this little video, if you're interested in seeing anything like that. And it had a what's called I can't quite remember the name. A twin tubes instead of a single top tube, and it was rather French looking, I must say. But I liked it actually. I didn't like the this is sacrilege now. I got it home and I started stripping it down. I took all those things off that made it so very French, and I put wide bars on it, and I tried to make it into a scrambles motorcycle, rather like that Tiger Cub in a previous video, if you've seen that. Yeah, see, I was always trying to make that little Tiger Cub, wasn't I? Even when I had a moped, so I ruined it really. Took all the guards off, cut all the lugs off the frame so you couldn't put the guards back on, and yeah, generally made a mess of it. Shame really. There we go. Such is youth. Now, it was a belt drive, automatic clutch, but you had to pedal it. It wasn't, you didn't just open the throttle and it went away. You had to pedal it a bit to get the thing. And I think the problem was that automatic clutch had worn out, and it didn't actually work. So it had to have a new automatic clutch fitted, which was very expensive. I seem to remember it. So eventually I bought that after struggling to try and get the thing to pull away. And I also started to tune it. Oh, tune it? Well, they'll be horrified at this. I took the cylinder head off and the barrel, and discovered it had a chrome plated cylinder barrel. Chrome plated straight onto the aluminium alloy. Oh, sorry about that, the phone started to ring. I had to answer it. Right, where was I? Yes, chrome plated straight onto the aluminium alloy. Now, I wanted to tune it, so I wanted to do a bit of work on the ports. And I thought, if I start cutting into those ports with a file, I might flake off that chrome plate on the aluminium alloys. So what can I do? So I thought, oh, the answer then is to start filing the piston crown. Oh, yes, thinning it right down. Not a good idea, really, is it? Anyway, surprisingly, it worked well, and it did improve the performance. It reached a rev like mad, but yeah, I did actually get it up to over 35 miles an hour on the level, and that's no mean feat for a single speed little moped, 50cc. But one of the problems with it was it did vibrate rather when it got to that sort of speed, especially with a piston that was no longer in balance. And I was constantly working away on that piston, to finding a bit more off, trying to get a bit more speed out of it. And eventually, after I think about 10 months, I think I had it, and it got me over Portsdown Hill. Now, Portsdown Hill, if anyone that knows Portsmouth, it's an island and it has an island mentality. And there are some people that never even got over one of the railway bridges out of Portsmouth, but I did manage that. I got out over the bridges, over Portsdown Hill, into the countryside, away from the city. Yes, I'm definitely a country boy. Don't like cities, don't like towns. I just prefer the countryside. And that's still what I'm doing, of course. So where are we then with this moped? Now the story is that, of course, having enjoyed riding a moped, when I became engaged to my fiancée Marion, yes, what a lovely word, that fiancée. Does anybody become engaged and we have a fiancée nowadays? I doubt that very much. They just get married and spend an awful lot of money at it. Right, anyway, back to the thing. So she was working at the time for IBM. Do you remember IBM? Oh yes, so big they could not fail. Just like the British motorcycle industry. They didn't see the writing on the wall, did they? So yes, she was working for IBM in Portsmouth, and she got absolutely sick and fed up. It was very well paid to do what essentially was a clerical job, and she got utterly fed up with it. So she said, it's no good, I'm going to have to try something a bit more creative. And she decided to go for a job in a garden nursery. And a garden nursery was over the hill, and by then we were living in a little place called Fareham, which is just along the coast from Portsmouth. our first house, and horrendous mortgage because it was 15% interest rates at that time, early 1970s. We're talking now, 1970, 71, 72. And so she said, I've got to have some transport to get over there. What do I do? So I suggested a moped. So we went out and we managed to find a little Riley runabout moped, and that was a single speed again, automatic clutch, belt drive, very similar to the Mobylette, but a bit heavier and definitely not French looking. You know what the problem with it was the belt drive, and if it was wet, and it was about it's a good 10 miles up over Portsdown Hill, which is 300 feet high. It's not very high, but she set off over to this little garden nursery, and I used to dread it because I'd get this phone call just before I was about to set off for work on my BSA Lightning, as I had then, and I've broken down the belt's turned itself inside out. Oh no, not again. So I'd go over there, put the belt, turn it back over again, and she'd go on her way, and then I had to go on to work. So I was often a bit late, but fortunately we had flex time, so I was able to get into the office at a reasonable hour anyway. We're just stopping here for some reason. I think I'm blowing my nose actually. But perhaps I ought to stop this at this point. Anyway, we can carry on talking, can't we? Yes, that's what I'm doing, not gloves. Yes, so I was dreading these sort of things happening, but eventually I said, look, you need something a little bit better than this. So we said perhaps a small motorcycle will be the answer. Well, she's very good. That was my handkerchief. She looked in the local paper, and there was. Hope we don't get the sniffles of this. Oh dear! I should have edited this, shouldn't I, before I started talking. Never mind. It's all good fun. Oh, I should probably lose a few subscribers here. It's a bit like that. I've got 330 something, and every now and again I lose a couple and gain a couple. Yeah, who cares? I don't mind. If you don't like it, you can walk with your feet or press with your fingers and unsubscribe from me, can't you? And subscribe if you want to. Oh, yes, it's all good fun. So where were we? We were looking at a motorcycle. Yes, so locally there was a BSA C15 250cc, it is, single cylinder, a 1959 model. And when I actually looked at the engine number and the frame number, it was 396 was the engine number, so it's a very early one. And anyway, we went along to have a look at it, and he said, well, there's something wrong with the big end. So he started it up, and it did make a bit of noise, I must say, but nothing excessive. And he said, well, who's this for? So, why do they want to know who it's for? This is the second time, isn't it? Who's this for? I said, well, it's for my wife. Oh no, she doesn't want that. She wants like one of these. Now he just obviously bought himself a twin-cylinder Honda. Well, I've never liked Japanese machines. I know this is probably going against the grain with all of you lot watching this. You've probably all had Japanese machines. I've never had one, and I don't actually want one. I don't know why. It just never appealed to me. Something about them, I don't know. Odd, but there we go. That's why I got Royal Enfield. So yes, he said, "Oh no, I know it's only it's only £10, but no, it's definitely not a machine for her. It's too old, too big and heavy. I mean, C15, it was tiny. Anyway, I paid the money over, and Marion convinced him that yes, it'd be fine. It'd be looked after and renovated." And I was in the process of renovating the house that we'd bought for horrendous sum, it seemed to me at the time, £5,500 we paid for that first house. Well, we didn't pay for it because we were paying for it over 25 years, and I had no money whatsoever because obviously given up a job at IBM, and I was working in a drawing office and getting about £20 a week at the time, which was quite well paid, better paid than I had when I was on the workshop floor as a skilled man. There you go. That's Britain for you. Still, by the by, yes. So got it home, put it into the front room. Can you believe it? I put it in the front room of the house and started stripping it down. And took it apart, and I couldn't find anything wrong with the big end. It rotated with no play. It was all fine. So, and nothing wrong with the engine as far as I could see. So I put it all back together again, removing a few of the heavier parts. More sacrilege. Yeah, I took off the great heavy mudguard. That's why I would never buy a classic 350 Reborn, you see, because I'd start stripping that down, wouldn't I? Getting rid of the all the bits I didn't like. I like the engine and the frame, but I wouldn't like the mudguards. So yes, I got rid of those, got alloy mudguards, and made it look like that Tiger Cub Scrambler again, as far as I could. So first trial out, we rode off to her uncle's and give it a trial. She was on the back and I rode it, and noise from the engine. Oh no, what's that? And it sounded for all the world as though one of the valve guides had come loose and was rattling about. That's what it sounded like anyway to me. So I thought, no, surely not. So yes, took the head off. No, valve guides were fine. Everything was fine, apart from obviously that big end. There was obviously something wrong. So fortunately, I had access to a press and pressed out the crank pin, and sure enough, one of the rollers, it was a cage roller, nice cage roller, big end, and one of those rollers looked like it had been knurled, or for those that don't know about such things, it was all broken up and manky. So I managed to get some rollers, big end rollers. I think it was from a Velocette or something. It certainly wasn't the BSA, but they were the right size. So pop those in, press the flywheel back together again, making sure they were nice and round and true, and reassembled it. Oh, very sweet. Yes, it ran like a little dream. And yeah, she thoroughly enjoyed riding that over to her little garden nursery. They did it for about must have been 2.5 years. Enjoyed the job, and she learnt an awful lot about bringing on plants. It was a proper nursery. It wasn't a garden centre like you have today. You know, this was a place that actually grew plants. It was very cold in winter, mind, and there was a lot of ice around, of course. There was a lot of ice in those days, and there still is. Yeah, but she thoroughly enjoyed riding that, and so that's a little story all about rebuilding BSA C15, which I then used when she changed her job yet again in Portsmouth. You could get to that by bus, and I took the C15 on as a second. What are these dogs doing here? As a second motorcycle, and I used to ride that into to Portsmouth along the top of the Portsdown Hill from Fareham, and yeah, many happy hours riding that. I did gear it up thinking it would improve the fuel consumption. It didn't. All it did was knock the top end down to about 50 miles an hour. It's the most I could get from it, and trying to climb Portsdown Hill, I was inevitably in third gear, so it didn't really improve it at all. What else? Oh, it did vibrate a bit, and it started to split the dual seat base split on it, so I had to fiddle around with that, and then I started to get a very bad oil leak out through the kickstart shaft. All the oil used to come out of the gearbox into that the outer case, leaving the gearbox empty. So I had to improvise a bit there, and did a minor repair on that. That solved it. And then, of course, the oil started to drain down from the oil tank into the crankcase, and no matter what I did with the little ball valve that's in there to try and stop that happening, it still kept doing it. I put I put a tap on the on-off tap on the oil tank that stopped that happening. You had to remember to turn it on, mind, before you rode off. It was okay. Oh dear. Well, eventually I solved it, and just yeah, that was the end of the C15. Had it many years though, so it was good. I mean, bearing in mind it was a very old machine, and it certainly would be now. And that's why I don't really want an old machine now. I'd much rather have the reliability of the Meteor and the Hunter, and thoroughly nice they are too. And this has been a lovely ride, and I hope you've enjoyed this little story. I've enjoyed telling it, and I hope you enjoy listening to it, and will join me again perhaps, and subscribe.